Steinhardt, and if you know me, you know I write books. This is something I've wanted to do for a hot minute, and that's talk about my process. People ask me, how do you write a book? How do you get started writing a book? Honestly, I don't know. As you can see, we have switched sides, and here we are. We're gonna write a book today. I mean, we're not gonna write a book. I'm gonna teach you how to write one though. So yeah, let's get into it. I am frequently asked,
Aurora, what's your process? What does it look like? What does that process look like?
and well, I have the wrong process, I think, personally. People ask me for advice. I always say,
you should not do it this way because this is not the way most people do it.
it's really backwards sometimes, I guess. Anyway, step 1. Inspiration. Now, this does not take much for me. In fact, my friends that are around me know they're not allowed to give me too many ideas. Otherwise, I'll accidentally start a brand new series. It does not take much. For me, personally, it could be a reel on Instagram. It could be a line that you hear. It could be just a few words, okay? And because of that, I have my Bibles. Okay, now these aren't actual Bibles. Do I show the people the Bibles? One second. These are what I lovingly refer to as my Bibles. It is a set of notebooks that I use to write my books. And even now, I feel like we're getting ahead of ourselves, but just know this will come back into play at some point, okay? These are the Bibles. Inspiration doesn't take much. For you, it could be anything. For me, it is anything. Next up, we have... This is quite literally how it happens for me. I just write. I don't have a plan most of the time when I start writing. I will have one specific scene and the whole book will explode from that one scene between these two characters that just materialized out of thin air, okay? I just write it. It's just a scene, boom, because my brain thinks in movies. And so when I think in movies, that's what happens. You just get a scene. The scene starts, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, what am I going to do now? What do I do? I have this one scene. There's no lore, no plot, no like real character. What do you do next? You step back. Just a little, just enough to look at the story as a whole. Now, for me, this is where the Bibles come in. Bibles. The first one, this is just kind of like a small snippet type of book. It's random lines, character ideas. This is just kind of like an idea thing that when it pops up, you write it down. It's really not much for plotting, more just ideas. It's very pretty too. Rainbow. This is the Bible. This is the brain dump journal. And I don't know if you can see, hold on. All of this is handwritten plots and storylines. This is where the thoughts go and get worked out. A lot of time is spent in this book right here. It holds the lore, the character motivations, blah, 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 blah. I also have, we'll explain that more later, actually, after I introduce the last Bible. But this is the brain dump. This thing is a mess, an absolute mess, but I love it. I think it's my most important book, my most secretive book, because obviously there's lore and secrets in here. I digress. And then we have the finalized plot notebook. This is where the brain dump gets condensed and it goes in here. It holds whole story lines and plot lines. So this is where I throw finished, sometimes there's like finished timelines in here, finished plot story things for in the middle of writing. Because of this initial writing prep work, this makes it so much easier for me. And we're back. Sorry, as you can see, my little board here is erased because a certain tiny somebody came and decided they wanted to be a part of the board and erased it completely. Anyway, so we're gonna go back to this part. So, as you can see, right? Step back, okay? That is going to be what I do for several weeks because once the story is written in the books, in this, I have to go back and forth until the book is done, unfortunately. I have to write big chunks, write big chunks, go back, look at it, see how it looks, go back in, write some more. Another thing I do is edit in chunks. We'll write that down. chunks. Editing in chunks means I write like 20 chapters and then I go in and I do what I call pre-edits. Pre-edits are what beef up the story. Beef. Because when I write, it's really just a bunch of word vomit. It's just word vomit. The whole point is that you need to get the words on the page. That's it. Put them on the page, get the story out, go back later, you can make it pretty. Don't get stuck up on things that you can't think of in the moment. Push the story forward. That is how I write so fast. I just push the story. It sounds awful at the time. It sounds like a nightmare. It helps. It's important because if you get stuck up on something, and I've done it before, don't get me wrong, there are times where I'm like, oh God, I don't know what to do. That is when you step back. Okay? That is when you step back. And the reason I'm able to step back, or my brain stopped working. Bruh. The reason I'm able to word vomit the way I can is because I have plainly written the scene on paper beforehand. So that means I can just zoom through it. Because then after I write the first draft, after pre-editing in my chunks, because we have let's say like this is the first draft, right? That's the first draft. It's gonna be ugly, it's gonna be disgusting. At this point, you would probably send it to alphas. I'm dumb, so I do things not right. I send it to whoever will read it at the time. Anyway, you write your first draft, you send it to alphas, and you get feedback from your alphas. That's what you're supposed to do. I get feedback as I'm writing the first draft. After I write the first draft, I do what I call pre-edits. This is dumb because it's really just an editing part of the process. But the bones, or the first draft, is bones. Bare bones is what I call them. It's ugly, it's gross, whatever. Anyway, writing is like a body. This is the bones, so this is your first draft, right? And then with pre-edits, we go in, we add some muscles, we add, a little bit of abs here to give it strength for the story to stand on. You know what I'm saying? That somewhat happens in pre-edits. This is where you beef it up. Okay? Pre-edits is just making the story bigger, in a sense. Stronger. That's what I mean. Wordplay, story and lore, whatever. And I keep all of these things in my brain as I'm writing. When I add things through this story or whatever that I haven't put in my book, I put that all in my brain and I go, okay, this is what I need to add on this round or this round. I don't know why or how. Sometimes I do write it down, but I do try and keep it in my brain. I do try and, put it in where it belongs. Anyway, then you have pre-edits. For me, this is after I beef up the story, and then it goes to an editor. Usually, my hockey books, I did all of it myself. So unfortunately, it was just me reading the same book 6 times. Whatever, that sucked. You would send it to an editor. In this point in time, because editing takes a minute, I work on another book. I know, whatever. Writing is fun, and so I keep doing it. Anyway, usually at this point, I'm starting a new book. I'm working on a new book with the new one coming out. I'm going to be working on Taken by Fate, whatever. Editor. Then you get it back. You get it back. And then you apply those edits, okay? Apply edits. You can do this in many ways. You can either just apply the comments, or you can go through and read. Just do a read through. And you fix it as you go. I do a little bit of both depending on what my brain decides to pick. Then you send it back to your editor. We're going back to the editor. They will give you more input on what needs to be changed. At that point, I will work on another book. You get an editor, and then you get it back. This editor is usually developmental. So this is story, lore, stuff of that nature, stuff that pertains to the story. Oh, Jesus. I don't do this correctly, okay? Technically, you're supposed to go developmental, copy line, proofreading, okay? Developmental, for those of you that don't know, lore, story, character, blah, 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 whatever. Copy line, you're working on syntax, wordplay, and grammar, right? Proofreading, it's like the last little finishing polish on it, okay? I don't do that because I'm awful. Anyway, again, this is my process, okay? Mine. Anyway, I get it back from the editor and I read it again. Wow, we're gonna read the story so many times. So you have all that, you have that. Now, what I like to do sometimes, depending on the story and how complex it is, I like to do these things called manual. If you have followed me for a while, you know exactly what a manual is. And they're hard, and I don't know why I put myself through this. Okay, I don't know. Manuals. The manuals, or a manual, is a hand-edited torture session. Okay? Essentially, I print out the entire book and I edit it by hand because my brain, for whatever reason, sees writing differently when it's on a paper and I see more and whatever. And usually I do that when the story has gone through developmental edits and I guess that's my version of copy line are the manuals, because I don't want to have to add so much more to the manuals that's not going to be there, and I want to be able to have the whole book there to do whatever. We have the manuals and then we apply the manuals. Okay, we apply the manuals to the manuscript. It sucks. Okay, it sucks. The amount of editing you have to do, it sucks. But it's worth it if you want a good book, okay? From that point, after I do that, my version of proofreading is a Kindle read-through. You probably can't even read that because I'm just burring off things at this moment. It's a Kindle read-through. I read an ebook version of it because I want to see it in every single format to make sure it looks good on paper, to make sure it looks good on ebook, because you miss things in all of those separate areas, formats of reading, right? Then, that's it. That's all you had to do. In between all of the writing, I make the headers, the chapter stuff. In between lulls, when usually sometimes you get stuck on a chapter and you don't want to work on it, or sometimes, there's just things that you don't want to be doing book writing-wise, I do more internal book things. I will go over that sort of thing later. I do all the internal formatting. I put the book together in that way. Cover, front matter, back matter, yada yada. This is just the book itself, just the manuscript. At some point, we'll go over front and back matter. At some point, we'll go over, book sizes, text size, whatever. But for now, this is just the process that I use. It's convoluted. It's absolute chaos. What else can you expect when you got 4 raccoons running around in a trench coat fighting for space? That's just how it is. So I plan on doing another video pertaining to the apps that I use, because I use a lot of different apps, or doing reviews of specific apps, or breaking this down, like each part of the process down just a little bit more. Depends, whatever. Let me know what you want to see. This was my process. And yeah, bye!